Unit 8, Lesson 1, Brainstorming Solutions, Step 3 in the PBL process. Once the problem has been fully understood and investigated, it's important to identify how the group will address the problem. Steps 3 to 5 in the PBL process are concerned with identifying potential solutions. Throughout Unit 8, we will look at each of these steps and how to support learners during these stages. Lesson 1 will look at Step 3, Brainstorming Solutions. This lesson looks at what is brainstorming, problems with brainstorming, overcoming these issues, and how to facilitate brainstorming sessions. It also looks at the tasks of each role during this step. What is brainstorming? Brainstorming in problem-based learning involves generating ideas or potential solutions to the problem which was defined in Step 2. This step is completed by the PBL group of learners. Brainstorming has been around since 1942 and was first identified by Osborne. However, as with most approaches, it has advantages and limitations. It has been shown to enhance communication and innovation and decision making, but if not done correctly, it can inhibit the generation of ideas. Problems with brainstorming. Some research has shown that working in groups can make us less creative. Often those conducting the brainstorming sessions are unaware of the issues faced and the availability of structured approaches. The main issues in brainstorming are groupthink. This is where individuals are under pressure to make a decision and conform. They don't correctly evaluate alternatives in favour of a unanimous decision. It is particularly prevalent in groups consisting of like-minded people that do not give different perspectives or views of a situation. Social loafing. This is where individuals working in a group exert less effort as they would alone. There are a number of reasons for this. The individual may feel that their contribution to the group won't matter. If there's a large group size, an individual can often feel lost. Sometimes there's a lack of motivation. This is two factors that must be addressed: that the goal is easy to attain and that the goal is perceived as being valuable. Also, individuals might feel that they will be allocated a large amount of work while others will receive very little and get the same credit or reward. It's important that these are considered and addressed. Procedural issues. This is the process by which the brainstorming is conducted. For example, if the brainstorming only permits one person to generate ideas at a time, the wait time for another participant might result them in changing their mind about voicing their idea, or perhaps forgetting what they had to say. It is important that the correct procedure is used to reduce such issues. Lastly, as with any collaboration, interpersonal issues can arise. Personal constraints such as personality, social anxiety, the mood of the individual, the presence of authority figures, gender balance and cultural issues all have an impact on the brainstorming and must be addressed. Overcoming brainstorming issues. There are a number of ways in which you can overcome these issues. The first is to introduce some individual idea generation. This reduces the issue concerning wait time and perhaps social anxiety issues people might face when speaking in a group. A study conducted on various approaches to idea generation found that asking each participant to write down their ideas individually generated more ideas than the participants vocalizing their ideas. This approach can address the issues associated with wait time. If done anonymously, it will also allow those with introvert personality types and social anxiety to express their ideas in a different manner. Electronic brainstorming has also proven to be effective. In problem-based learning, the ICT platform developed by the Archimedes project provides an electronic means for individuals to brainstorm ideas. It's advisable to ask the learner group to identify potential solutions on the ICT platform before meeting again. We will now demonstrate how to brainstorm using the Archimedes platform. You can also vote on each idea. The second approach of overcoming issues would be to use a facilitator. Research has shown that brainstorming groups with a trained facilitator outperformed non-facilitated groups. The facilitator recognises different personality types and ensures that the correct process is followed to reduce issues. They prevent individuals from straying from the task at hand and identify creativity fatigue, where people are tired and are slow to contribute ideas. They can note ideas which have not been fully discussed and reintroduce them when there's a lull or quiet time in the discussion. This stimulates further ideas. Encouraging questioning is another approach. This reduces groupthink. To do this, you put together a multidisciplinary group which have multiple perspectives of the problem and encourage them to be critical and question ideas rather than accepting each idea. This should be done in the classification and evaluation stage of brainstorming. Using a structured approach can overcome procedural issues. Often brainstorming is conducted in a very haphazard manner. Ideas are sometimes presented and discussed simultaneously. Time is not allocated to certain stages, and often certain individuals dominate the session. Using a structured approach identified by various researchers can reduce these effects. We'll examine this in the next session. A structured approach to facilitating brainstorming and problem-based learning. This can be done by the discussion leader and/or the tutor. To facilitate brainstorming for PBL, a number of steps have been identified. First of all, the discussion leader must summarise the problem definition so each learner is clear what is to be brainstormed. Secondly, each individual must be encouraged to write down their solution ideas. This can be done before the meeting on the ICT platform or at the start of the meeting. Generally, the time allocated to idea generation is approximately 20 minutes. It should be emphasised that there is no criticism of ideas until the next stage, and no idea is too unusual. To stimulate ideas, you could use an idea generation checklist such as Scamper. S standing for substitute for the problem, C combining different ideas to solve the problem, M modify the process to overcome the problem, E eliminate elements of the product or process, and or rearrange or reverse things to address the problem. In this, the learner can use one of these approaches to develop a solution. If there's a period in which you think the learners are struggling to come up with ideas, you can use the Scamper tool. Please see the supplementary video resource on Scamper in the text version of the learning material. Following this, each individual should articulate or explain what is meant by their idea. At this point, the learners are asked not to critique or evaluate the ideas. Ideas should be recorded on a whiteboard or a flip chart. It's important that the facilitator doesn't allow individuals to dominate the conversation. Individuals should be asked to state their ideas and explain. If they deviate from the topic, the facilitator should interrupt. For example, when the individual says the word because, they should stop the person and move on and explain that it's about stating ideas rather than expanding. You should summarise the main solutions identified and clarify them with the group. Lastly, once the ideas have been fully developed, they should be classified. This is step 4 in the PBL process. Tasks of each role. The team member is responsible for bringing forward ideas about how the problem might be resolved. Once each person has identified their ideas, they must explain what is meant by your idea and how it might address the problem. The recorder summarises the main ideas in the discussion. They note them on the whiteboard and use concept maps if required. The observer takes notes of how each person performed using the checklist outlined in Unit 2 as a guide. Lesson 2 will look at Step 4, Classification and Evaluation in Problem-Based Learning.